Care Chats. Care Chats with Tanya, Mark, and Nick. Care Chats. Care Chats with Tanya, Mark, and Nick. Grab a mug of care and join us for some Care Chats with Tanya, Mark, and Nick.
Yes, please.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Care Chat with me, Nick Venegoni, and my fabulous co-host, Tanya Mark Oviedo. They, them. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. You're fabulous.
I think we're really feeling our Gemini energy this
Ooh
week
la
as
la.
we're hovering between our two birthdays right now.
And for our listeners, just in case no one has ever shared with you, the best season of the year is Gemini season.
So today we're here to talk more about music. Surprise, surprise. You know, Tanya, Mark, and I talk a lot about music and how we met making music. And we wanted to introduce the way that we're working with music now in our community and bringing the care of music and music as care.
Yeah, and before we take that little mini mini deep dive into that, as always, we want to acknowledge our teachers, and in this case, Nick and I met with Linda Arnold, and we also share another teacher, Sylvia Nakash, although we weren't in the same class. So these are teachers that we want to name and put gratitude out for the way in which they share their medicine of music and sound, and have inspired both Nick and I to explore that internally, which brought us together, and we now share it externally.
Yeah. And I'm curious, Tanya Mark, do you have any other music or sound teachers from historically you want to bring in?
Historically? Oh, well, historically, I will name every single family member if you want to take it there, because I stole all of their records and albums, and every single family member from both my mother and my father's side that had shared music, because every single person loved a different genre of music and they like talking about the music. So I want to honor that in an indigenous way, first and foremost. And I also want to say that for the last almost 9 months now, I've been singing kirtan and sargam practice with Mix Puja online, and we gather 3 times a week, and we've built quite a community there. So it's been incredible to participate that way. How about you? Where do you connect your dots?
Well, I want to say, talking about family, my dad, he is almost 85 and he still sings in his church choir. He actually conducts the church choir now, but he sang in that church choir for a long time. And so I think that was a really good model and example. And my piano teacher, Nancy Mitchell, was a big influence. All of my music teachers from elementary school and high school. I sang in choirs and I played in bands, and I sang in choirs in college and community choirs, and all of those magical people. And one of the first people, once I became more of an adult than I am today, once I grew up, I was introduced to Karma Moffat, who is a really magical musician here in the Bay Area, who plays a lot of traditional Tibetan bells and those kinds of music, and really brought me into the world of sound through meditation through sound and music. So
yeah, I want to thank all my coaches, right? Because that's where I really learned about music. And this, hello, y'all, this was pre-internet. So like we had to like make a mixtape or listen to something in its way through. But they encouraged me to put music on that felt motivational and to see myself and visualize myself in that activity. My mom sang in choir, church, school choir, and my father marched in the marching band playing trumpet. So both of my parents carry musicality in them. And yeah, so and my teacher, when you said teachers, I automatically went back to Mrs. Turner. I think I was like fifth or sixth grade. She was this really great music teacher. She taught us how to air guitar. So that's when I started performing even more in my room. We did air guitar, and like we could, pick a song we liked. Do you want to know what song I picked? Because I still
Uh-huh.
remember Open Arms by Journey. And I had a whole ambiance. Like I put like a lamp behind to make it ambient lighting. And that was, like a performance, like a
Uh-huh.
musicality type vibe. And so thanks for connecting those dots. And as we bring it to the present, Nick and I collided, and when we first met, we were actually using and attuning to, not using, we were tuning to our vibes, working with other folks' music, right, Nick?
Yeah, we were sharing, musicians and artists that we found on streaming services that we really liked and brought in the kind of energy that we wanted to bring into our care circles. And so we would collaborate on playlists. We would share the playlist with our community so people could continue to tune into that music and that vibe. And do you want to talk a little bit about how you infuse the music?
Ooh, yes. So that's what was really cool was that we would collab on these songs, and then I would in my own personal time drop in and go in and infuse energy. So I work with such things as Reiki, Tarot, astrology. And so bringing in those energies, I would sit with the songs and then pass them on to you. And we
Mm-hmm.
would kind of go back and forth and curate this playlist along with a flow. So we will always had considered like, oh, this is where we are planetarily or astrologically or collectively. So how can we curate? That's what we were doing. We were curating and mixing what we were using. And thank you to all of those artists, because they were artists of very inspirational music, very potent music. What happened was like changes, right? Cure Spirit has continued to change and evolve. And so we've evolved into this idea of sound care.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I was telling Tanya Mark at the beginning of this year that I really wanted to carve out more time for myself to make music because our teacher, Linda Arnold, who had the chanting group that Tanya Mark and I met through, I also took other classes with her, yoga of piano, which is all about, just being intuitive on the piano, and sound meditation design class, which is all about music production and using whatever tools you have, whether it's your own instruments or digital instruments through the computer and that kind of thing. And during lockdown I was doing a lot more work like that, doing online sound baths. So Tanya Mark nudged and invited me to start making my own music for us so that we can have our own queer spirit soundtrack for our circles.
Yes, it's been this, nice and easy, mindful, slow process for us where we've kind of began to explore at the beginning, at the top of the calendar year, if you would say. We decided that, like, hey, what would happen if on our first Saturdays and third Sundays and fourth Sundays, we started to bring in our own curated music? So, in addition to those energetic sprinkles, could we work with that? And it's been so freaking cool.
Yeah, so we're having this conversation just to share with you, the behind the scenes look of Queer Spirit and how Tanya Mark and I work and how we bring all of this beautiful musical magic to you and the intention and the energy that we bring. So you know what you're getting into when you come to space with us. So, what we do is we think about the beginning of each month. I get a little witchy and I look at sort of what kind of pagan holidays might be coming up, or Sabbats or
Hmm.
seasonal holidays. Tanya Mark looks at the astrology for the next couple weeks, the next 4 weeks or
Yeah, new
so.
moons and full moons, we take a look at what's coming that way and big shifts in planets. Yep.
Yeah, and we just kind of meditate and collaborate and germinate
Yeah. And
um,
really, y'all, it's like it is. It's a percolate. We're percolating and germinating, and we're thinking about flow. So we never have the same flow for any circle. When you catch us on a first Saturday, third Sunday, fourth Sunday, it always has its own unique rhythm and flow because we take all of those things into consideration. So we attach like when might it be a good time for stillness or breath work or movement or a combo thereof, what makes sense as far as who we are as practitioners and how we guide. Does it make sense for us, for me to kick us off or for you? And all of those things go into sound care and energy with the number one intention, bringing care, bringing a container, tools, spaces, a space where you can drop in and practice care, such as breath work, movement, journaling, movement. I said movement already. That's how excited I am.
Visualization, meditation, spirituality. We look at what kinds of deities might be coming up
Mm-hmm.
during that time of year, that time of that month. And the other thing we look at a lot, especially for sounds, is we think about elements. We think about what
Yes.
kinds of elements are coming up at that time of year with those planets or with, the seasons that are coming up, whether it be, earth, air, fire, water, metal, wood,
Yes.
um, wind, what kinds of sounds are coming up. And sometimes it just doesn't, there's not these specific correlations. It's just kind of like, as we talk about this, I'm hearing
Yep.
this.
It's intuition, spidey senses.
Like Tanya Mark will listen to something that I've started to create, and one thing they're like, I really hear like hawk or eagle coming in. Or today I played Tanya Mark something, and they're like, I'm hearing a clock. And I'm like, huh, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Let's see what that would sound like.
Isn't it? Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. So, and then I go into the laboratory and I sort of mix up a little brew of sound, and then I share it with Tanya Mark, and Tanya Mark gives me some feedback, and we
Oh,
collaborate and co-create.
yes, we do. And it's not just, and in addition to the feedback, I also sit with my instruments and I play the hand pans. Anything that Nick sends me, I sit with. And to me, sitting with is I drop into a meditative state and provide myself access to whatever instruments want to come out, if that should be the case, and also drop in that way. And I also wanted to mention another very important ingredient that Nick and I sprinkle into our sound care is what's happening in the collective. We are
Mm-hmm.
always considering that the care of the collective, how can we respond in care centric, trauma mindful ways? We community. Those are always like main ingredients of our sound care recipe, if you will.
Yeah, what's happening with the queer collective, what's happening with the global collective,
Ooh, Ashe.
all of those things.
So,
So,
y'all, we would love for you to join us on a first Saturday, a third Sunday, if you identify as queer and person of color, on a fourth Sunday. And we just wanted to share with y'all and introduce this idea of sound care because you're going to see a lot more of it.
yeah, so that's our formula, that's our recipe, that's our process, and we just wanted to share with you how that magic of queer spirit comes in, and what sound care is to us. And there's lots of different ways of sound care. You can find your own sound care with your own musician, your own instrument, your own breath, your own body.
Mm-hmm.
Wherever you find support in sound, whether it be in silence and stillness, or whether it be in tapping or clapping with the body, whether it be listening to the wind in the trees or the ocean.
Speaking of body, I want to thank Shireen Amini. Last year I was in drum reclamation, and that's exactly what I learned to do was use my body and not use my body, attune to my body in ways that can also create sound and energy. And so thank you, Shireen
Yeah.
Amini, for
Yeah.
that. And Morgan, Shireen and Morgan.
Yeah, the body is an instrument. You hear
Yes,
singers
it
talk about their
is.
voice as like their instrument, but there's other instruments in our body besides our voice. There's our chest,
Yeah.
there's our hands, there's whistling.
Mm-hmm. We also have new for us this year, this season of Queer Spirit is we have our care circles. We now have those recordings available where our podcasts and care chats are available. So you can go back and listen to any of those should you feel like you need some care on the go. And guess what? Queer Spirit participates with the Mighty Networks, who not only has a website, but they also have an app. So ways to access us, the circles, whether it's live or recorded, it's there, y'all. Come join us. Grab a mug of care.
And we're also planning, hopefully later in the summer, to put our soundtracks just on their own, so you can use them in whatever way you want to get those streaming somewhere for you too. So stay tuned. You can use them in your own meditation practice, ritual practice, yoga practice, whatever you've got going on.
And as always, y'all, we invite you, let's continue to take care of ourselves and continue to take care of each other. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.
Care Chats with Tanya, Mark, and Nick.